Welcome to Shelterhouse Shares on MCTV. I'm Janine Ouderkirk and I'm the Executive Director at Shelterhouse. And with me today we have our Chief of Police and our Sheriff. Welcome.
Thank you.
Do you want to introduce yourselves, please?
Sure. I am Clifford Block, the Chief of Police for the Midland City Police Department. I've been a member of their department for 20 years and the Chief of Police for about a year and a half.
I'm Scott Stevenson. I'm the Midland County Sheriff. I've been with the Midland County Sheriff's Office for approximately 18 years, and I've been the Sheriff now since January 1st.
Well, congratulations on the new position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming today. Today we're here to talk about domestic violence from a law enforcement perspective. I want to start by saying that we live in a pretty safe community, and I want to thank each of you for your part in that. Cliff, I recently heard you say that we were recognized as one of the safest cities in America.
That is correct. In the spring, we got notification from Neighborhood Scout, who does figures as far as the safest communities and the worst communities in the nation, and we were recognized as being one of the 100 most safest communities in the nation. In fact, we're actually marked as number 71, which is a true testament to our community and also to our law enforcement.
Thank you. That's really, really wonderful news. And we all love to know that we're in a safe community, and I know our law enforcement in Midland County and into the city is exemplary. So thank you for all of that. But today, I want to talk about violence in the very place that people should feel safest, and that's usually in our homes. I know that I get statistics from each of you, and Cliff, your Deputy Chief of Police, Roten, sent me the city numbers for 2012. And he reported that there was a total of 253 domestic calls that you responded to. And Scott, Captain Goodall, I think, is who sends me the same stats. And he reported that in 2012, the Sheriff's Office responded to 557 domestic calls. That's a total of 810 domestic complaints in Midland County. What happens when you get that call? I know that's just the tip of the iceberg, and so someone picks up the phone, calls 911. What happens?
Well, first of all, I got to mention that we're blessed to have a Midland County 911 that we have currently a local 911 PSAP that we have with such dedicated professionals and hardworking professionals. We're certainly blessed to have them. They know the community well and they know their officers well, and because of that, they're able to do excellent service, provide excellent service in that area.
So they're not police officers answering the phone?
They are not. They are civilian personnel that
Okay.
have been hired, and they're actually part of a dispatch authority, and they're called a PSAP, which is a public safety answering point for 911. But we are blessed to have them in our community because they do a fantastic job, and they know each of us. They know the law enforcement profession. They know members of the community, and they actually know some of these people that call in occasionally based on repeat calls. But they're involved in a lot of stuff. They're truly multitasking. They're doing a lot of things all at one time. When that call first comes in, there's a lot of things they have to get information about. First of all, they have to identify the caller. They have to determine a venue, because the venue is important now, whether the Sheriff's Office responds or the City Police responds. They have to also determine what is the nature of the call so that we get the proper response. Is it a simple disagreement, or is it escalating to more beyond a disagreement? During that process, they're also determining things like, are there children present? Is there alcohol or drugs involved? Is there a weapon present, either being used in the crime or one that may be available at a future time? Where is the suspect, perpetrator, or assailant, whatever you want to term them? Where are they at currently? And most importantly, is the victim currently safe? Or is the victim in immediate danger, which obviously will adjust our response based on that information. So a lot of different questions are being asked and responded to. They truly are the first one on scene, the dispatchers are.
Okay.
They're the first ears to what's going on. They're listening to what they hear in the background and relay that stuff to us also as we make our response to the area. And that stuff's also being recorded. So, they're talking to victims during the height of the emotional situation. It's just occurred or is still occurring. That information can be very useful for us in our investigation and also in the future court proceedings. So a lot is going on. They truly are the first ones on the scene.
And that's why they keep us on the line. If you call 911 and they say, don't hang up, it's so they can gather all that information.
Absolutely. Like I said, they're hearing stuff in the background. They're maybe hearing the assailant, the perpetrator in the background, comments that are being made. That's all important information that we need to have as first responders to make sure that we're responding appropriately to the area and that the victim's getting the service that they need.
Okay. A lot going on before they even get to the scene. So what happens when they do get to the scene?
Well, the first thing is the officers need to be aware of their surroundings when they make a safe approach to the house. The first thing you want to check for is a vehicle maybe leaving the area going at a high rate of speed, or a vehicle pulling out of the driveway of the residence. If you have that, there's a good chance that the suspect on that call is in the vehicle.
Okay.
And if there's not a vehicle leaving, we also encourage, if there's time, have Central Dispatch run the license plates, so at least we have an idea of the owners of the cars and who may be there. Another thing, as you're approaching the house, you want to be aware of anybody around the house, anybody trying to get out of a side door or a back door. You even want to be aware of the family dog.
Wow.
Okay? So once we go up to the residence and make contact with the parties involved, the first thing that we want to do is separate those parties. You're almost always going to have a suspect, victim, and possibly witnesses. You want to observe those folks. You want to make sure before you're separating them, you have to be aware of your surroundings again. Is there anything broken? Is there a vase broken? Is there a chair tipped over? Anything that would indicate that there was a struggle there. Of course, once we break up the parties, we want to separate them, and we want to interview each one of them separately. Okay? We're there to be fact finders. We're not there to see if we can make an arrest. We're there to see exactly what happened and take statements from all the parties involved there at the scene.
Okay.
And then that's when the part comes where the officer has to make a determination on what course of action they're going to follow.
Can I ask a clarification? You said, Cliff had said that the dispatcher's listening maybe for children in the background. On the scene, you described all the potential people. What if there's children there? Is there any consideration? Do they kind of just say, please stay over here? How do you handle kids?
Absolutely. If there's another responsible adult in the house, you would have those children move to another area of the home.
Okay.
Hopefully you have at least 2 officers there, if not 3, for those types of situations.
I know a lot of times kids they're the unseen victims of domestic violence. So I was just curious on what happens in those situations.
Absolutely.
So many ways it might go. Just a lot of different variables. I'm sure that each one is unique in and of itself. So the officer has to make a lot of decisions. What options or courses of action do they make, based on the investigation?
Well, actually, after we've gone through the fact-finding portion, as the sheriff mentioned, that's what we're there for. We're there to determine the facts, to find out what actually happened and what occurred here. And we do look at all the different aspects of the scene and the conversations that we have and what they tell us as far as witnesses and the victims and the suspects tell us. We have to decide whether this was just a argument, that many spouses may just have a simple argument, and because of where they live, someone overheard the argument, and it may be something as simple as over the remote control or over the radio station that was picked. Or is it more than that? Has it gone, is it escalating? Or has it gone to the point where it's actually an assault? So based on what we find out during the fact-finding determines what course of action that we may take. And that involves, like I say, talking to witnesses, like the sheriff mentioned, talking to children, talking to the victim and the suspect, or even just the 2 witnesses per se, if neither one of them is actually determined to be a suspect. So we have to do a lot of real digging to find out what's going on in the situation. So once we determine that, there's separate courses of action. If it ends up being just a disagreement, a simple disagreement between domestic partners, brother and sister, spouses, whatever it may be, any domestic relationship, it may just be the fact that we're there now and the problem has resolved itself. If the situation is still heated, we may decide that even though there was no physical assault, what about separating for a time? Do you have someplace you can go for a little while to cool off period time, to relax and rethink and reflect and make sure that the situation is going to be resolved. Then, of course, obviously, if it becomes an assaultive situation where there was an assault that took place, our obvious recourse at that point is going to be an arrest. Domestic violence is a very serious crime, and we would obviously make an arrest.
Okay, so if it's determined that an assault occurred, and you determine that you need to make an arrest, so what's the importance or the significance of making an arrest?
Sure.
The significance of the arrest, first and foremost, is it's a law. It's a domestic violence law. Okay, it's very important. It doesn't say, it says that we shall make an arrest. If we can determine that there was violence there, somebody was assaulted, officers shall arrest that suspect. Okay, so that's one thing. It's the law.
So that's a physical assault.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So another thing that the arrest, why it's important, is it can diffuse the situation obviously right away. We're taking the one person, the suspect, who is the problem, and we're removing him from that environment away from the victim. Again, very important. Another thing important about the arrest is, again, it provides a cooling off period. When somebody has to go to jail, they have to sit there for domestic assault until they see a judge. That could be several hours. And also, we'd like to think that it acts as a deterrent. I can't imagine it's very pleasant sitting in one of the holding cells at the Midland County Jail. Obviously, we want to use that as well as a deterrent so people do not assault other people.
Can I ask a question that's not on our script, but just a clarification? If someone's made a threat, like they have a gun, but they haven't actually hit someone or any physical assault, can you do anything about that?
Well, it depends if they have a gun or a weapon with them.
Okay.
Then it could be considered what's called a felonious assault.
Okay.
Yes.
And they can be arrested.
Absolutely,
okay.
they can.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Okay. After you've taken a course of action, what's next?
Well, now we've decided, and we've done what we've done, either made an arrest or we're actually there and we're going to separate the parties. But anyway, we were sent to a domestic dispute type call or a domestic violence call. Either way, it was a domestic situation that we were called upon. At that point, we have certain obligations. One is to give a victim's rights card to the victim, and that provides them with information about where they stand, what they can do as a victim of domestic assault or of domestic violence or a domestic situation. We also gives them opportunities to have phone numbers to contact different organizations. Obviously, Shelterhouse is one of those organizations that they can contact. So we give them that first. That's a requirement they get that victim's rights card.
Okay.
So we make sure that we get that taken care of. Also, we have to require by law to submit a report, also a complete report to the prosecuting attorney's office. So that's also another important aspect. The prosecuting attorney's office gets all domestic situation reports. That would include those domestic verbals we just spoke of, where it's just a verbal argument or discussion or whatever, did not actually go to the level of physical. That still gets forwarded, a report still completed and still forwarded to the prosecutor's office. On top of that, we have other requirements that are required by the state to provide certain information, and that's what they call on a domestic violence, summary report form.
Okay.
And some things they require on that are like the length of the relationship, how long they've been together in whatever relationship that is. What kind of relationship? Is it a dating relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend? Is it a domestic partner relationship? Is it siblings that live together? Or is it husband and wife? So we have to identify which type of relationship that they're involved in. Also, whether medical treatment was sought, whether alcohol or drugs were involved, whether there's any other previous court orders, personal protection order or other court orders that are in place already against one or other party. And they also go through what they call a risk assessment or a lethality assessment, they call it, where you look at different factors. Some of those were any threats made to kill. Were there any weapons involved? Is the female victim pregnant? Any discussions of suicidal attempts? And that's to kind of get an idea of what the mentality is and what is going on at the scene, determine what kind of threat assessment is there. As far as, based on some of those comments, threatened to kill and weapons involved and suicidal comments, obviously increase that level that we should be aware of to know, okay, this could have been a very serious situation. We're lucky we're here when we are and we're able to diffuse it. But these factors all go into play when you look at it in the prosecutorial portion of it, which I know you've already talking to the prosecuting attorney, Mr. Carpenter, about.
Yes. So those all that information that you collect is gone on record, goes to the prosecutor. Do you have access to that if you go back to another call that I have been here 3 times before and you can pull up, there were weapons here, where are the weapons, those kinds of things? Do you have access to that ongoing?
Absolutely. We've got the reports. The other thing I didn't mention previously about the dispatch center is they do that for us. That's why we're very lucky to have what we have here in Midland County. That does not happen in every county. But they have the ability to actually look at our reports while we're heading that direction to let us know if there are any prior complaints at that